Okay, and we're back. Okay, and we're back. Hello, everyone. It's me again, Jackson, and today we're going to the second take of the lore video, or the second part of the lore video. Last time we covered the first 2 years of the realm, important events such as lots of war, the rise and fall of General Carrot, and the Project Unity initiative, and yeah, so that was basically like the first half of the lore. And you might be wondering, well, why is it only the first half if you only have 3 years of the lore? The math doesn't add up. Well, that's just because a whole lot of stuff happens in the third year. A whole lot of stuff, including the end of the world. But I probably should have said this last time. Think of the years more like decades in our timeline, because it's kind of weird to explain how there were like four wars that happened in the midst of 2 years. It's just way too volatile to, you know, be a thing. So, we'll yeah, just try and ignore the time frame. It's kind of wacky. But anyways, you might be wondering, what are all these flags that spawn? And this is actually not, if I had a nickel, if I had a nickel for every time I had banners put all over Spawn, claiming it to be their own nation. You want to know how many nickels I'd have? I'd have 2 nickels because this dude right here. Oh, I just broke all the oh no. Well, if you saw it for a split second, uh, but that was Blockistan. That was Blockistan. I'm pretty sure I have their flag over here too. But that was their original flag before they made this design, which was the orange and blue, but it doesn't really matter. But basically, what happened is Blockistan was their name sounds familiar, um, and that is because, or I mean, their nation name sounds familiar. That is because they basically were the same thing. Ex- they liked to commit acts of no-noism, to put it mildly. And they would steal and do, but they were basically they were the new baddie guy after Japrica came down, which actually leads me to a different point because before him even there was a witch. I don't know what they called them, a sorcerer. I'm gonna look away from the flag, but basically you saw that for a split second. It's the Rizzler. That was the nation of Riztopia, and they were one of the first people to try and take over the world. Before the entire international community teamed up to cancel them and kill and execute them because they were having sorcery, which is a lore code name for hacking. So they got put 6 feet under. But we're not here to talk about the Rizzler. God, I can't believe I've had to say that more than once. But anyways, this Blockistan um was the original. They were basically just the main antagonists. They basically, before they realized that the NUO was like the UN, they literally tried to declare war on the NUO, which led to Connor Embers himself chasing their leader Mongoose, who was the leader of Blockistan. Basically, he just chased him everywhere and killed him like 87 times. We don't talk about that, but basically, yeah. Um, So yeah, the entire server just united against Mongoose and Blockistan to try and keep them from, doing shenanigans. But yeah. So shortly after this, though, a there's an ongoing joke in the Discord server that I have where Nvidia can't keep a solid government for more than 10 days, and this was oh so much true. Because the second corporatocracy of Nvidia would be very short-lived. Because after Nvidia retook their capital from Japrica, causing the death of Carrot, Carrot just decided to Japrica, led by Romeo, decided that instead of them going after me again, they would send in the monarchy of Uskin. Now, Uskin had a leader, but their name was redacted on all the files I could ever get of them. So we're just gonna call their leader Redacted for kicks and giggles. And Redacted was a very renowned warrior, and he basically just sent in him with his because Uskin basically had the Japrican Axis's elite guard. I don't remember what they called them, but they went up against my standard wolf infantry, and we tried to. Well, I tried to fight, but um, it didn't go so well because before there had been a strategy used to. But basically, one of the main reasons why I lost to Uskin was because Uskin realized that I had the Thorns enchantment on my armor, and the Thorns enchantment causes armor to break quicker than it would normally. So that basically caused me, after he managed to tank all of the hits from the entire Invidian army, and like this dude is basically if you dropped a space marine into like Napoleonic France. It was not pretty. Uskin basically exploited the weakness and killed Wallace Mart, who was the leader that took over from Sam Clubb and successfully repelled the Japricans from the capital. So now Nvidia was now destroyed again. But instead of directly annexing them like Japrica did, which led to a common, anti-Japrican sentiment, this led to a puppet regime being established called I actually don't remember, but it was basically just a communist state in Nvidia, and basically led to a new leader and a new way of life, which basically led to the rise of the dictator Al D. Al D was not a very nice person, and he was very much known for basically in his press room he would have a bazooka next to him, and if anyone disagreed with his values, he'd have them blown up with his bazooka. Kind of comical, but you know. Shortly after this, however, again, the Nvidians cannot keep a stable government for more than 5 days. Um, so very shortly after this, things started to go south for the Jabrican Axis in general, because soon after this, Stradvaria um, started to show signs of compliance with the Lucius Praesidia, and the Nvidian people had started to revolt inside of Nvidia, and so there was a general planned attack. It was revealed later that Lucius Praesidia had started to amass forces to go on an absolute world war against the Jabrican Axis. However, this turned out not to be necessary, as revolutions in Stradvarian and Nvidia were surprisingly met with little resistance from the powers involved. Basically, the Jabrican Axis wasn't able to create a strong enough force to stop the uprisings, which basically just meant that since they couldn't stop the uprisings, they didn't care and they just left, which kind of just bummed out the Lucius Praesidia. But I will say that this is actually because they were planning on attacking Japrica, and I kind of ruined the whole thing by saying that Stradvarian was secretly trying to betray Japrica, which then led to the Lucius Praesidia quitting the war in a fit of rage, which I will admit that was completely my bad, guys. I'm sorry, but you know, you can't make it out without breaking any eggs. Anyways, um, so after this, the Nvidian Revolution happened, and this was led by Target, which was basically the leader from that point to the end of the world. Um, so yeah, basically Nvidia would become they go back, but instead of a corporatocracy this time they'd be a republic. Although basically nothing changed. We had Nvidia got a constitution, which basically we ended up breaking every other time because we needed food, and in the Constitution we said that animals were people too, and that kind of screwed up some stuff. But Target kind of changed as he went about his role. However, this after Nvidia revolted, again, Nvidia can't keep a stable government for more than 10 days. So, in response to that, Kevin He II successfully decided to make a colony directly outside of Nvidia and proceeded to industrialize it and militarily equipped it with the sole purpose of the colony to intervene in any Nvidian invasions, revolutions, or breakups, which was kind of seen as a me personally, I didn't like that. Target did not like that at all, but Kevin He II declared it necessary, which also led to the city-states of Embers going directly north of Nvidian lands that were actually claimed by Nvidians, and proceeded to build the settlement known as the city-states of Wee-Wees, should I say, but replaced the Wee-Wees with the P, and yeah, you get what they try to name it, because they built everything out of statues that we saw on the flag of Riztopia over there, um, which would later be reintegrated into Nvidia as the settlement of Johnsonville, which will actually become very important later in the lore. However, after this happened, do you remember how I mentioned that Stradvarian had furries? Well, apparently, the people in Stradvaria were racist towards the furries. So that's something I actually never thought I'd hear from anybody, but apparently it's true. So basically, what happened was their president, River, was after basically concessions to the Farrens were not met by the Stradvarian government. A Farren extremist group basically kidnapped River and put his oh god, he put his furry boyfriend in charge. This leads us to Twig. Now, Twig is another very important political character, which has so much lore behind him. Again, you could make a book about this one country, but I don't have time to go too detailed into it. But let's just say a third of the speeches in the speeches channel are either drama surrounding Stradvaria or people's reactions to drama surrounding Stradvaria. That's just the truth. Um, but Twig was basically a Farron who was River's right hand man, and the sad part is Twig didn't want he didn't want power. He didn't want to become the president of Stradvaria, but basically the extremist group forced him to after they literally tortured River to death. So, yeah, this stuff gets dark. Shortly after this, Blockistan announced that. What am I doing? Oh, Blockistan over here announced that it was making a block, like the Eastern Bloc, the Blockistan block. So uh this included Mongoose and Blockistan, along with Medovia, who Medovia was kind of a controversy because Medovia was actually a member of the Jabrican Axis and one of the first nations in the world, but they got colonized by another tyrannical dictator because the Jabrican Axis at this point was really kind of just a shadow of its former self, and they just kind of let it happen. So Medovia fell to Blockistani control, and along this, um, their two neighbors, the Republic of Volta and oh my gosh, and I think it was the Republic of Jefdonia, joined him in his shenanigans against the NUO, which they were very much anti-NUO. Did I ever say? Oh my gosh. Wow, I'm kind of. So the NUO stands for Nations United Organization, just so everyone is aware, because I can't believe I didn't mention that already. Oh my god. Okay, anyways, I'm moving back down here. Um, where was I? Okay, so after that happened, Blockistan set up its shops at Spawn, and it rebranded itself as a federation, what no one really believed, which would lead to some of this stuff, but we don't talk about that. So, um, after that, a totem was discovered by Japrica because Japrica needed something to do because they couldn't just conquer people anymore. So Japrica found this totem, and it was reportedly basically an item that they got from Al-D while they still puppeted Nvidia, and basically it looked to be a chunk of the anomaly that seemed to have magical powers. So basically, it was just a magical item that Japrica had. Now, supposedly after this, Nvidia entered a golden age where we expanded into many different areas: industrialism, farming, agriculture, basically anything you could think of. Nvidia basically became the shining example. And I think, yeah, alongside the nation of Grassblock, and basically, this entered like a certain kind of era of peace. There wasn't really any war happening because Mongoose was too scared to declare war after he was forced to bite the curb by Connor Embers, and Japrica was basically just it was like the sick man of Nhovy. All right, it was bad. Japrica was not a threat anymore, to put it mildly. But after this, oh god. After this, the more Stradvarian lore came out about Twig, the emotionally um, now unstable leader of Stradvaria, who was trying to patch up a literal, like, to bedrock hole that River had made for some reason, but had been healed by the anomaly for some reason. But that was before Twig took over, and now Twig's in charge, and he wants to go with the anomaly, but he doesn't really want to because he knows that there's bad things happening to it as more and more wars happen. But during this era of peace, it seemed to have weakened. However, before he could go and get his, fix on that purple dust, I guess, a certain someone came in and did some very bad things to Twig. A Farron, basically a centaur, by the name of Hassan, basically came in and um, how do I put this mildly? He did some not nice things to Twig, and basically used footage of him doing those not nice things to Twig while Twig was very heavily intoxicated, and basically used that as blackmail for Hassan to gain control of Stradvaria. Now, this basically led to a whole lot of international drama with everyone trying to figure out what was going on with the Stradvaria because it was very off, and everyone kind of knew. It was like a dramatic irony when the audience knows what happens, but since we're also the audience and the players, we have to kind of pretend we don't know. That's kind of what it was. But basically, that's what happened, and this led to lots of things happening with Hassan, which basically led to Archaea. Yeah, their flag's gone for some reason, but Archaea basically. Oh, basically luring Hassan into their lair and making them bite the curb. And so that was the end of Hassan, which leads us to another important figure, Quinn Voss. Now, Quinn Voss was the leader of the anarchy of Archaea, but they were much less an anarchy and more of a technocracy because they loved innovation and science, and most of their resources went into research. But that was basically Quinn Voss's focus. They would also later join the Lucius Praesidia. Um, ah, and then Stradvaria cuts all ties with the Japrican Axis, which then further basically states that Japrica is basically dying. There's also a short, you could probably see it in a video, but there's a short war between Balakistan and the Republic of Volta over a pie, which was just kind of filler because nothing else was really happening on the realm for some reason. But everyone would get back into it. Well, actually, never mind. Everyone will get back into it because of more Stradvarian drama. Yeah, I've been half of this entire thing has been going over Stradvaria, but whoever's been writing the story for Stradvaria is actually goated because this is lots of stuff. But this would basically so after the traumatic events of getting diddled by a horse, um, Stradvaria basically sends Twig to a hospital to recover from this traumatic event. And basically, his assistant, Melody, would take up. Now, Melody was a really nice person and basically focused on improving the country as a whole. But that wouldn't be the case because drama has to happen. Meanwhile, the avium axis that had formed between the wave crest and the Lux sovereignty had started to become hostile towards the Lucius Praesidia, as the Lucius Praesidia needed a new enemy after the Japan axis basically imploded on itself. But Archaea and Quinn Voss tried to calm things down by writing to rid of Wavecrest and Ferris of the Lux sovereignty. However, this would backfire as Ekfi went over to Wavecrest to try and calm things down. And after after Rin visited him in Archaea, he would then try and show her an experiment, which would go horribly wrong, lopping off both of her arms, and so she would have to get cybernetic steampunk new arms because she got her arms chopped off, which is yeah, that was kind of the whole thing, which basically led to more tension between the Avium Axis and the Lucius Praesidia. And oh, I forgot to mention something. Oh my gosh. So remember whenever I was talking about the totem? Well, in between where the after Hassan was defeated, after Hassan died, the tensions between the Lucius Praesidia and the Avium Axis began to come up. Japrica and Romeo Hemmingson basically decided, enough is enough. We're tired of being the sick man of yours. So they took the totem and used its power to revive General Carrot from the dead. And basically, he was infused with anomaly energy and basically just went on a mad rampage. Declared war on the entire world himself, just him, just him, just declared war on the entire world. And that led to the Battle of Spawn City, which was basically fought right over here, I'm pretty sure. And basically, the entirety of the world almost lost until basically his power was finally diminished and he got turned into dust. Which then Romeo Hemmingson confessed his crimes and was executed, which then led to the actual complete disintegration of Japrica as a nation. This was monumentous because this meant that Japrican Axis had been dissolved. Japrica was no longer a threat. But this also set the stage for a new conflict, the Avium Axis versus the Lucius Praesidia. And that's all the time for I have today. That is a very convenient sunrise. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.